Sponsored by John Deere. I could try to apply a unifying theme to all the technology I saw out in the desert last week, but I gotta be straight with you. I don't want to talk about robots, or even smart glasses, or heaven forbid, AI shovelware. I want to talk about gadgets. And fortunately, from rolling laptops to resurrected smartwatches to folding phones to trifolding phones, the 2026 Consumer Electronics Show has provided. This being first and foremost a phone foamer channel with a focus on foldables, let's start with the second most significant one shown at the show, the Motorola Razr Fold. Off the bat, let me tell you, this device is thinner and lighter than its swollen curves and squared-off optical array might suggest. Not quite thin enough to justify the Razr name, no, but Motorola is no stranger to stretching the truth when it comes to making its most famous brand work. And despite the lack of exciting color options, the materials here are friendly to the touch, with the curved glass and shiny rails lending some elegance. The Fold has everything you've seen from prior Razrs, from the sigh AI button to the chop to flash and twist to camera gestures. Those cameras are triple 50-megapixel shooters around back, topping out at a 3x telephoto, disappointing but pretty typical, and the atypical inclusion of stylus support on both displays would be reason for celebration if Motorola had provided a garage on the device for said stylus. Sadly, that silo is as absent as the magnetic charging I was also hoping to find. Other specs are unknown, and to be honest, they don't matter much to me, because the important thing about the Razr Fold is that when it drops this summer for a TBD price, it'll be the only book-type foldable you can buy in North America if you're not shopping Samsung. Of course, the maker of the Galaxy line is not standing still, and I'll update you on my time with its latest foldable at the end of this video. Before we leave the Brooklyn Bowl here on the Link Promenade, let's check in with Motorola's parent company for a look at another shape-shifting device. Now, don't get too excited. It's a concept device, which means it may end up as vaporware. But Lenovo has a long history of actually commercializing some of its wildest concepts, including the other weird laptop it showed off on site, the Auto Twist. I like that one opens itself, probably because it reminds me of the best Star Trek movie of the 90s. But I see no real utility in the feature that follows you around unless you're a chronic pacer on conference calls. Point is, this was a concept, and now it's a real product, and I hope the same happens with the ThinkPad Rollable XD. Tap a touchpad on the upper edge, roll out, and the 13.3-inch display extends upward to a skyscraping 16 inches, thanks to a flexible OLED and a series of gears and cables Lenovo boldly decided to showcase with a transparent panel here. I love it. Cleverly, once you slide that screen back down, the stowed section stays useful because of that same clear casing. If you don't remember Windows Sideshow, well, who does? But I've always appreciated the idea of a secondary display that makes a clamshell device usable even when closed. And if you're in the middle of saying that you'd appreciate a landscape rollable more than a portrait one, well, Lenovo's got you covered there too, with another concept from its Legion gaming lineup that it also showed off in Vegas. But I find a vertical horizon to be everything I want, and the best I ever had was from another laptop maker. Back to that in a moment, because trade shows are frenetic, and you don't stick with one category too long. You're on your way from one booth to another, and suddenly, bam! There's Eric Maciejowski, whom you were supposed to interview at CES 2013, but United screwed up your flights so bad you were late, which meant your old friend Taylor Martin got the interview instead and made you a Delta man for life. True story. Anyway, if you don't know Eric, his brand Pebble is the reason smartwatches became a thing. From Kickstarter success story to Fitbit acquisition and shutdown to its current revival. The company is much smaller than in its heyday, but you wouldn't know it from the products it was showing: Pebble Time 2 and Pebble Round 2.
I knew I was going to be excited to have a Pebble back on, but I didn't really know how excited because I forgot how cute the UI is with its little animations and the little homey touches, and that it's just so much more human. than any other smartwatch, and I legit forgot how much I appreciate that. Also, this is much lighter than, it's almost like nothing on my wrist. Which normally I like a chonker, but this is, well, it's just delightful. I'm glad I pre-ordered one.
Besides the endearing OS and community-curated ecosystem that's managed to survive on its own for 10 years after Pebble's apparent demise, I'm mostly excited Pebble is back because it's limited. It's not trying to be all the things modern wearables need to be to achieve mass-market success. It's trying to give you relevant information on your wrist while staying readable in all lighting conditions and lasting between 10 and 30 days on a charge. That's why I fell for smartwatches to begin with. And it's nice to see this icon of the industry restored to its rightful place on store shelves. On my amble away from Pebble, my eye was drawn to one of those things you just need to touch. CyberFidget is a delightful little gizmo from Ypsilanti, where an automotive engineer named Sam builds these in his house. It's basically a handful of deeply satisfying buttons and some sensors, mated to a wristwatch-sized display and contained in an enclosure you buy as a kit and build yourself. To hear him tell it, Sam wanted a device that could instill joy like a Game Boy and feel like a Swiss watch. So he built, again in his words, the last fidget toy you'll ever need and the first developer kit you'll want to carry. It's open source, so you can write and run your own software on it, and just as important, from Sam's perspective, that also means the device won't die if the company behind it does. He's got a lot to say on the Kickstarter page. Yes, as always, take caution with crowdfunding projects. But I like that both his vision for the product and his target fundraising goal are narrowly tailored for this retro cyber fidget gadget thing. Stuff like this is why I used to love coming to CES. And stuff like this, too. Look, I do a lot of talking on earbuds, and I've found it really tough to find a pair whose microphones are actually good at phone calls. Enter subtle computing with the VoiceBuds. Hardly the most attractive TWS earphones I've ever seen, but as the subtle folks told me, hardware isn't the point. Much of what's inside these is off the shelf. The secret sauce, they say, is in the software they run, anchored by an algorithm that demolishes background noise.
And this is a pretty good environment to test this in, because this is really cacophonous, right?
Yeah. This is not even loud for our model. Our model can go way, way louder.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, hello! Okay, so...
I didn't have the foresight to ask Subtle for the sound file, and it was impossible to capture the effectiveness of the final product with my camera, but this is the best noise canceling I've ever heard. After processing, not a trace of the background chaos was captured, while my low-level dictation was preserved perfectly. It's incredible. I hope Subtle succeeds based on selling its own buds, but I'd love for someone like Nothing to buy or license this technology so I could leverage it while wearing buds whose aesthetics agree with me a little better. Nevertheless, if it weren't for one other brand on site, stay tuned, I'd award Subtle Computing with Best Demo of the Show. Building roads and harvesting crops. Two things you don't ordinarily think of when you think of tech. But John Deere thinks maybe you should. See, the average farmer is over 58 years old and works 12 to 18 hours a day. Well, at CES, I got to go hands-on with one of John Deere's solutions to that situation. Its monster X9 Combine. This is basically a rolling factory that combines, get it, 3 main workloads of the harvest process into one massive machine. In the past, that meant an operator needed to give a combine constant attention. But thanks to lots of cameras, AI, pinpoint GPS, and clever software, this one can navigate, process, and transport almost by itself. As you might have seen in some of my older videos, it can even drive in formation with the tractor pulling a grain cart right alongside. And speaking of transport, almost half the roads in the US are in mediocre to poor condition, while 4 out of 5 contractors struggled to hire last year. So John Deere brought some of the same technology it perfected in the fields to road building. This automated paver is essentially a giant robot that lays asphalt at just the right temperature and thickness to build even roads, while reducing waste and making workers' jobs safer and easier. In short, John Deere is automating the world's most essential machines to help produce the food, fuel, and roads we all rely on. Thanks to John Deere for sponsoring this video. Best demo of the show has got to go to Lego. Now, if you're thinking that adding tech to something as sacrosanct as the Lego brick is a blasphemous affront to one of the last remaining non-connected toys, I cannot blame you. I get it. But the hour-long play session Lego hosted demonstrated such a complete and thoughtful understanding of how kids play, or at least how I played as a kid, that I wasn't surprised to hear the company tell me that this product took 8 years to develop. A Smart Play brick includes sensors, lights, and sounds, so it can detect motion, orientation, and color, and position relative to other smart bricks. Also, different bricks can be assigned different roles, so they know whether they're a duck or a duckling, a dinosaur or a hatchling, a noble rebel or an imperial oppressor. Very few brands respect the glory that is the A-Wing Interceptor. Very fast, big sensor package. The best starfighter ever devised. Sorry for the Kuat Systems sponsor spot. Anyway, the point is, adding a Smart Play brick to these means you get context-dependent reactions, like R2 yelling if you do a barrel roll, or an explosion sound if you knock something over. Lego has cleverly incorporated buttons into some of its launch playsets too, which when pressed, move the brick and expose it to a different color, triggering a sound effect like a laser blast. It's this delightfully old-school Rube Goldbergian kind of implementation. And when you need to recharge, I love this, that happens wirelessly. Again, I get wanting to preserve a tech-free play experience, and if we were talking about putting screens on bricks, I'd probably push back on this. But to me, it feels like Lego found the perfect way to add a little dimension to a classic experience without stepping over a line. And here's a good thing for someone, maybe. The robot phone is a great example of what keeps me covering Honor, despite the fact that very few people ever watch those videos. It's hardware no one else is doing. In this case, a tiny gimbaled camera that deploys when you need it and stows into a completely enclosed cargo bay when you don't. Kind of like the robotic arm on the old space shuttle. Just right there, that could be an action camera competitor that would make a certain subset of influencer reach for their wallet. And half of me thinks that target customer is exactly who this phone's designers initially had in mind. But this being 2026 and Honor being, Honor, it decided on a different direction. Yeah. We'll see more, I'm sure, in Barcelona. And to cap things off with some more intentional insanity, ASUS is back with the first dual-screen laptop that might actually win over the mainstream. To be clear, I don't have sales data for the company's earlier Zenbook Duos, but over the years I've covered them, I've never gotten the sense that they were developing much momentum, thanks no doubt to their bulk. But the 2026 model of the Zenbook Pro Duo is amazing. With the new hideaway hinge, ASUS has made the machine much more compact, and its so-called ceruleum finish is a brighter dusting than prior models, which makes it feel a little more approachable, a little less intimidating. The double screens now sit closer together when opened, and while the weight is about the same as before, the battery has gained 32% capacity in that same footprint. Like I said with Lenovo, if you don't get the portrait approach to dual screens, I understand. But in the places I work, on cafe counters and airline tray tables, my horizontal space is limited, while my vertical space is almost endless. Building up makes a lot of sense in those contexts. I have a Zenbook Pro Duo review sample, and I'll be testing it right after I finish my review of the final product I'll mention today. Samsung's Galaxy TriFold has already made an appearance on this channel thanks to my December hands-on, but it was being shown to media at large in Las Vegas, and I had my retail unit with me, thanks to Deere for helping me import it. I love a trade show as a stress test, and the TriFold came with me from plane to bar to cafe to restaurant, accompanied by one of 4 keyboards I've used to see if I can press it into service as a 4-pocket or a 3-pocket or even a 2-pocket laptop. Of course, I've been testing the cameras too, and both before and after CES, seeing just how much use I can put that big 10-inch display to, with or without Samsung DeX. My conclusions will have to wait for the full review coming up next on this channel, but I've been surprised by how often I've missed the other standout Samsung from last year, the Galaxy Fold 7 that found its way into my primary pocket starting around November. And it makes me wonder whether we've possibly already found peak foldable. The eagle-eyed among you will notice that yes, Click's Power Keys was one of the 4 keyboards I used with my TriFold. Don't worry, I'm not going to try to sell you my product again. I only bring it up to mention that, as with the last 2 years, about a third of my time at CES was spent giving briefings about our new products at Click's. I loved that experience. It's a wonderful inversion of my typical time spent at a trade show, but it does mean I have less time to be out on the floor finding all the weirdness I can devour. And I'm actually really pretty bummed that I missed out on oddballs like the Side Phone and the Ico Mind 1 and so many others. But some new friends of the channel, like Returning Retro and Ole, did uncover those gems. And I'll drop links to their stuff so you can see them. Oh, and incidentally, I did buy a Side Phone, so I have one coming in soon for review. Like I say, not everything needs a unifying narrative or an underlying theme. Sometimes a trade show is just a trade show. In my case, a mostly fluffy parade of gadgets and gizmos, some more useful than others, but all worth talking about to a particular type of tech appreciator. I hope you enjoyed the list I've curated, and I'd like to see what you saw, in person or remotely, that you'd like to see on this channel in 2026. Travel and lodging were provided by Click's Technology, but as always, with the exception of my sponsor, none of the brands in this video were given copy approval or editorial input into this coverage. Subscribe to Mr. Mobile so you don't miss that TriFold review coming very soon, and follow me on Threads at Captain Two Phones for my thoughts between the videos. Until next time, from Michael Fisher, thanks for watching, and stay mobile, my friends.